If our county board supervisors would please check in, we're going to start the meeting here in about 30 seconds. Thank you. It will take a couple of minutes to get used to the sound system in this room, which is excellent, but it'll take a few minutes to get used to that. A couple of things I wanted to go over for our supervisors. When you want to address the chair, you have to press the on button on the microphone. It will stay on during that duration. You don't have to hold it, but when you're done, you need to turn it off, or it will continue to pick that up. The same holds true for the public. There's a button in the middle there. It says push. You need to turn the microphone on. It probably can be left on throughout the duration of public comments. The other thing I'd like to do, with permission of this board, is suspend the rules where you have to rise to address the chair. I think it's more convenient to remain seated today. Just raise your hand. We'll recognize you when you want to speak. I also want to, real quickly, before we even start, thank Wisconsin Rapids, the cities, especially Shane Blazer, their clerk, who took the opportunity to meet with Cindy and myself last week to get us set up so we looked at least semi-professional when we got in here today and weren't fumbling around. So I want to thank them for their attention to that detail. So now that I got that out of the way, it is 9:30. We will call the August meeting of the Wood County Board of Supervisors to order. I would ask that all supervisors please sign in, and I believe that they have. And I would ask the body to please rise. Supervisor Hendler will do the invocation, and then we will remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
As we stand before you at this time, we give thanks for the many blessings you have bestowed upon us. We thank you for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness we all enjoy. We thank thee that we have a form of government where we can freely give our opinions on any issue and vote without fear of retribution. We thank you for America and for the flag that is a symbol of our country and freedom, and we can pledge allegiance to it without fear but with honor. Now we ask that you will give us the wisdom in the decisions we make today. Help us to respect each other's opinion, even though we may not agree. Help us to work together for the good of the people of Wood County and uphold the laws of the land. This we ask in thy name. Amen.
Please join in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you to all of those in attendance today. Thank you, Supervisor Hendler, for the invocation today. At this point in time on the agenda, I would entertain a motion on the minutes. Motion by Hamilton, second by Fire. I know we need to amend these minutes. So.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, thank you. I would like to amend the minutes to reflect on Resolution 14-7-2, that there were 4 no votes of Clendenning, Curry, Hamilton, and Winch, and that Supervisor Hendler is present and not absent.
Okay, you've heard the motion on the amendment. Is there a second to that? Supervisor Hamilton seconds that. All in favor of approval of the amendment to the minutes, please signify by aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign, and that motion carries. And now on the minutes as amended. We already had a motion there and a second. All in favor, please signify by aye. Aye. Opposed, and that carries. Excusals today, we have 2. We have Supervisor Hokamp and Supervisor Alwarden, who are both out today. Resignations, we have none. Appointments, we have none. And under reappointments, without objection, I think I'll take all of these at once. I have appointments to the Board of Adjustment, 3 of those for 3-year terms, and they are Supervisors Minor, Ashbeck, and Winch. And to the McMillan Library Board, Supervisor Clendenning for a 3-year term. And I have a motion by Fire to approve and a second by Henkel. Any discussion on those reappointments? All in favor, please signify by aye. Aye. And opposed? And that is carried. This brings us to public comment. During public comment, we allow 3 minutes from the public to comment on anything that might be germane or pertinent to county business going forward. I would ask that you please come to the podium, the microphone, make sure you press the button and the green light is on so that you are heard and picked up by the cameras. And I guess at this point, we can start. So the public comment period is open. Who wants to be first? please.
How that,
That's per,
on behalf of the Wisconsin Breast Cancer Coalition, I'm going to just read this briefly. My name is Mary Wright, and I am a breast cancer survivor. On behalf of the Wisconsin Breast Cancer Coalition and our supporters statewide, we are asking for your support in approving a referendum on the November 2014 ballot, asking the Wisconsin legislature to accept available federal funds to expand Wisconsin's Badger Care program. The Wisconsin Breast Cancer Coalition is a statewide grassroots nonprofit dedicated to ending breast cancer through public education, collaboration with other organizations, and through legislation, because policy decisions impact the entire continuum of breast cancer, from early life risk reduction strategies to screening and treatment and on through survivorship. Our recent Wisconsin Breast Cancer Coalition, or WBCC, analysis of the 42 counties in Wisconsin with breast cancer incidence and/or mortality rates higher than both the state and U.S. averages showed that tens of thousands of additional citizens in just those counties would be eligible for access to quality and affordable health coverage if Badger Care were expanded as envisioned and provided for in the Affordable Care Act. Access to risk reduction counseling, screening, and treatment is critical to reducing the number of lives lost to breast cancer each year in this state. WBCC has petitioned legislatures and the governor to not reject this funding and to instead ensure that our state's safety net for low-income residents is as robust as it can be. A referendum on this very important issue will provide an opportunity for the citizens of Wisconsin to let their state representatives know how we feel. We encourage you to approve a referendum on this matter for the November 2014 ballot. Thank you for your consideration. Lance, do I push the button to shut it off?
I think you can leave that on, but thank you very much.
Okay.
In consideration for those people making public comment too, when you have 30 seconds left, if we get to that point, I'll mention that very quickly for you so you have time to summarize if that's necessary. Additional public comment?
Yeah. Good morning. I'm Deb Beadle. I'm from Wisconsin Rapids. I have a letter here from Wisconsin Farmers Union, also on the same issue. They're writing to support a ballot referendum on whether Wisconsin should accept federal funds for Medicaid. Wisconsin Farmers Union supports a referendum to give citizens a chance to have their voice heard on this important issue. Obtaining health insurance is a perennial challenge for farmers. Like other self-employed individuals, many farmers find it difficult to obtain affordable health insurance. Even if purchasing an individual plan is financially within reach, farmers are sometimes excluded from private health insurance plans because insurance companies consider farming too risky of a profession. As a result, some farm families turn to Medicaid, Badger Care, in order to have health insurance and receive preventative care rather than waiting until they are very sick and using the emergency room. As of 2011, according to the most recent data available, 11,000 members of farm families in Wisconsin received health insurance coverage through Badger Care. Lack of access to health insurance is also a barrier for young families trying to get started in farming. It is not uncommon for farm families to turn to Badger Care during those first few very lean years of starting a farm operation and then graduate to private health insurance as the farm becomes more profitable. Agriculture is an important economic engine in many counties in Wisconsin, and we benefit in the long run when we give new young farmers a helping hand into the profession. Wisconsin Farmers Union urges your support as an advisory referendum on the November 2014 ballot that allows citizens to weigh in on this important question. Thank you for your attention to this matter. We appreciate all you do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Mark Holbrook. I have a small horse farm just northwest of the city, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Wisconsin Council of Churches in support of the referendum whether Wisconsin should accept Medicaid funds for Badger Care. The Wisconsin Council of Churches is a community of Christian denominations that covenant to engage in a common ministry focused on church unity, peacemaking, social and economic justice for Wisconsin's most vulnerable residents, and revitalizing congregations. The council encompasses 17 denominations with approximately 2,000 congregations and over 1 million church members. We are writing in support of an advisory referendum in the November 2014 ballot asking citizens whether the state of Wisconsin should accept federal funds for Badger Care to cover over 84,000 residents in Badger Care. In our representative faith tradition, a right is defined as a moral claim on the community to provide goods that are essential to human dignity. Access to affordable health care is such a right, and ensuring access is a common policy goal of longstanding for religious communities. Accepting federal dollars for Badger Care will do more than facilitate access to health care for Wisconsin's needy. Doing so will reflect sound stewardship of limited resources. Utilizing these federal dollars for Medicaid, even if done temporarily, will permit the legislature to reallocate funds to other critical needs, such as elementary and secondary education, other health care programs, tax relief for those who need it, and community corrections programs. Fostering such stewardship is yet another reason to consider accessing the federal Medicaid funds. We encourage this county board to approve the referendum on this matter for the November 2014 ballot. Please send your suggestions to Scott Anderson, and thank you on their behalf. I think it's a real shame that decisions made by the current administration in the state are costing Wisconsin taxpayers this biennium about $206 million, and the projected loss in the next biennium, if not accepted, it is in excess of almost $300 million. So I urge you to pass this referendum. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Sandy Hurd. I'm from Grand Rapids. I'm speaking for the ACP from a letter from Mark Belknap. He's the MD, FACP Governor, Wisconsin Chapter, the American College of Physicians. He is supporting the referendum to have the Wisconsin legislature accept expanded Medicare funding. I am writing on behalf of the Wisconsin chapter of the American College of Physicians, which is the largest physician specialty membership organization and the second largest physician membership organization in the state, which is approximately 1,700 members. We as a physicians organization have been and continue to be concerned about many people in Wisconsin that have not had the opportunity to access health care because of the governor that has chosen not to accept additional funding to expand Medicare coverage to a larger proportion of our uninsured population. To not accept these funds excludes many from access to health care and sends our tax dollars to other states that are accepting the expanding funding. Members of our population suffer from the effects of ill health due to lack of access to care, and our state loses money by this policy. Health care costs for those of us who are uninsured rise to cover the expense of uninsured patients who receive care and are unable to pay for it. ACP in our state and nationally has considered advocating to strive to achieve universal access to health care, and accepting these funds is one means to move closer to achieving this goal. Our organization strongly encourages your board to approve placing on the ballot for the November 14th election an adversary referendum to give our citizens a chance to express their opinion. Would appreciate that. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Bruce Dimmick, town of Saratoga. And I'd just like to preface my remarks that I'm going to be addressing the referendum to have Wisconsin legislature accept available federal Medicaid funds for Badger Care, just by saying that a lot of, or not, I can't see this with authority, but I'm aware of at least several counties in our vicinity are entertaining the same resolution. It looks like we have a real groundswell around the state people that are speaking out in favor of us as a state accepting these funds and getting our health care in line with a good bit of the rest of the nation. So I'm reading a letter from Mike Pine, President, Wisconsin Alliance for Retired Americans. And he says, on behalf of the Wisconsin Alliance for Retired Americans, I'm asking for your support to have a referendum on the November 2014 ballot asking the Wisconsin legislature to accept available federal funds for the Wisconsin Badger Care to ensure thousands of citizens of our state have access to quality and affordable health coverage. The WIARA, and that's the acronym for Wisconsin Alliance for Retired Americans, of which I'm one, is a nonprofit organization represented over 108,000 Wisconsin retirees, which provides public education and advocacy with and for current and future retirees on state and federal programs affecting them and their families. The Wisconsin Alliance is concerned that the current governor and Wisconsin legislature have rejected these funds, while other states have taken advantage of the federal funds to secure health coverage for many of their uninsured citizens. By having a referendum on this very important issue, citizens of Wisconsin will have the opportunity to let their representatives know how they feel on whether our state should have accepted these available funds for uninsured Wisconsin citizens. We encourage you and your colleagues to approve a referendum on this matter for the November 2014 ballot. This advisory referendum will give your constituents a chance to voice their opinion on such an important matter. Please feel free to contact Billy Feitlinger, Executive Director of WIARA. If you have any questions or need additional information, and thank you for your consideration. And again, let's do this for the people of our community who are less fortunate than probably most of us sitting here today. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Christine Johannick. I'm from Marshfield, Wisconsin, and I'm also speaking to this same advisory referenda question. And I'm here representing myself, but I also have information from the National Alliance on Mental Illness of Wisconsin, who represent over 40 Wisconsin counties. One of the things to remember is that Badger Care is a crucial means of early intervention and access to reliable, affordable mental health care for thousands of low-income Wisconsin residents. And without insurance, people cannot access timely, reliable care and often wind up depending on county crisis services. Accepting these funds is the right thing to do from a fiscal perspective. And we're all strongly encouraging this board to pursue an advisory referenda question on Badger Care expansion this November, and supporting the following language: shall the next state legislature accept available federal funds for Badger Care to ensure that thousands of Wisconsin citizens have access to quality and affordable health care? Thank you.
Thank you.
Justin Pluis from Wisconsin Rapids. I come before you to express my support for these two referendums, the referendum to expand the Medicaid program and to raise the minimum wage. I support these two reasons, these referendums for multiple reasons. First, the Medicaid expansion program is truly a win-win situation for Wisconsin. The Wisconsin Nonpartisan Legislative Bureau just reported that Wisconsin could have saved over $200 million in this last budget if it accepted the federal funds. It also reported that over 90,000 people would be covered by Badger Care. More people covered, that's a win. It also reported that the state in the 2015-16 budget is going to spend between $965 million to $1 billion in providing these Medicaid benefits. And if the governor had accepted or will accept these federal funds, the state will only spend $700 to $750 million. So according to the Nonpartisan Legislative Bureau report, there'd be a savings to the Wisconsin taxpayer and more people insured. To me, that's a win-win. And as a paramedic who provides emergency medical services to the people here in Wood County, I see more and more people utilizing the emergency medical services as their source of primary care. This means longer ER waits, it means higher costs of those who do have insurance, and it means a higher cost of providing these emergency medical services. So the overutilization of these emergency medical services would be alleviated if if more people in Wisconsin would have access to primary care through a Medicaid Badger Care system. And then in Wood County alone, we're talking over 4,000 people would be covered if this Medicaid expansion would go through. I also support raising the minimum wage. I have no proof, I've seen no proof of raising the minimum wage would cause job loss. What I have seen proof of is here in Wood County, without even raising the minimum wage, we've seen a lot of good paying jobs lost. Currently, the poverty level in Wisconsin, or the federal poverty limit, is $23,500 annually, which equates to $496 a week. If you were to divide that by someone working full-time, 40 hours a week, that person would have to make more than $12.41 an hour to stay out of poverty for a family of 4. I think that's wrong, that someone would have to work more hours or be paid more than $12.41 to stay out of poverty. All I'm asking is not for the county board to raise the minimum wage. I'm not asking the county board to expand the Medicaid system. I'm just asking the county board to let the people in November have a say and put these 2 items on a referendum. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Rick Potter. I'm from Nakusa. First off, I want to thank all the board members for their leadership and their service to the community. I know it takes a lot of time and dedication, and thank you for doing, a very good job here in Wood County. We're fortunate to have you all. I'm speaking in support of the 2 resolutions on the ballot. I'm one of the leaders of the Central Wisconsin Grassroots Alliance. We're a newly formed group. We have about 100 members in our group, and with affiliated groups who send representatives to our meetings, we're about over 1,000 strong. Like our forefathers, we believe that informed and involved citizens are essential to a well-functioning democracy. We want our democracy to represent all of the people, not just the privileged few. So regardless of how you feel about these 2 resolutions, I hope you will allow the citizens of Wood County to have a voice and vote in their democracy. Please put these resolutions on the ballot and then listen to what your constituents have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, thank you. My name is Frank Baldus of Baldus Oil Company in Marshfield. We're a 3rd-generation family business with convenience store locations located here in Wisconsin Rapids, Marshfield, Nakusa, and Stratford. I'm here to make a case against offering a resolution referendum for the increase in the federal minimum wage to $10.10. We could be viewed as simply a self-interested employer in this case, but we feel that isn't the case. We would like to pay our people more. We have a lot of wonderful employees, but we always believe that the pay system should be based on merit alone. Increases in a minimum wage, such as that being recommended, take the decision-making away from employers and force us to give raises to people based not on merit or on their specific skill set or performance or longevity. All employers are different, all employers large and small. Some can absorb increases in their costs, such as wages, with no problem, but very many, such as us, have to look at reduced staff, reduced hours, and the increase in the cost of the products that we sell. Most retailers do operate on razor-thin margins. The 2007 increase, I think, was a jolt to many small businesses that went from $5.85 to $7.25 an hour over a period of about a year. And that took a lot of organization and a lot of planning to pare down our staffs and our hours in our stores for that time. In the convenience store business, I wish we could have 2 or 3 people working every shift. just for safety, security, and customer service reasons, but it just isn't the case anymore. Over the years, businesses like ours and many in retail have had to scale back on the types of hours that we can provide. Most retailers and businesses offering entry-level positions are able to hire people without really any skill sets. All we ask for are people that can be disciplined in their time and their scheduling and be able to deal with people. So we're able to hire people that necessarily don't even have a high school diploma, but just through their hard work and efforts can make quite a name for themselves. It's all on-the-job training for a lot of the entry-level positions that we have.
30 seconds.
Okay. I just wanted to just say the primary value of a minimum wage job is that they are learning jobs. They teach inexperienced employees basic employment skills that make them more productive and enable them to earn raises and move on to better jobs. A minimum wage job and increase really affects primarily younger workers. Only 2.9% of wage earners earn the federal minimum wage, and most minimum wage earners are teenagers or young adults, not heads of families.
That's time.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't mean to ever cut anybody off, but in fairness to everybody, I'm trying to hold real close to that 3 minutes. I'll try not to cut you off mid-sentence.
Good morning, Scott Larson, the Executive Director with the Marshfield Area Chamber of Commerce and Industry. I'd like to buttress what Mr. Baltus had stated in that as it relates particularly to your consideration of the minimum wage resolution, please understand that that, as a policy matter, is a terrible way to address anti-poverty measures. It has never worked in that regard as being an anti-poverty solution. Quite the contrary. Again, studies both recently by the Employment Policy Institute and the Congressional Budget Office both indicated that in Wisconsin alone, over 27,000 jobs would be lost by a change in the minimum wage. And at the federal level, anywhere from 500,000 to 1 million jobs would be lost as it relates to changes in the minimum wage. As Mr. Baltus pointed out, other businesses, their wage rate has to be based upon their ability to conduct business, earn profits, and the merits under which their employees are able to provide services. Arbitrarily setting a number is harmful to them and harmful to the increased economic opportunities of a particular area, state, or nation. So we would definitely ask you to consider not addressing the minimum wage referendum. As it relates to the Medicare issue, just want to pose a couple of questions, one of which being, are you comfortable in believing that the federal government would be able to maintain and fulfill its fiscal promises to you with regard to the Medicaid funds? Under Act 20, which was passed here in Wisconsin, everyone up to the 100% of the federal poverty level is covered, does have access to either Badger Care, MA, or the insurance plans. Every parent and caretaker under that 100% poverty level has options, coverage options. That group between the 100 and 133% of poverty level, which is the group we're talking about, has options available to them from either the Affordable Care Act insurances, Badger Care, or Medicaid options that are available to them. And lastly, I think that both of these referendums are unnecessary in the fact that we have an election this November. People have a chance to give their opinion by who they elect to state and local offices. That's the best referendum to find out what policies you wish to determine based on who you wish to vote for come this November. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Melissa Reichert, President of the Heart of Wisconsin Chamber of Commerce. We were very fortunate this morning to hear from the Director of the Marshfield Area Chamber of Commerce, Scott Larson, talk a lot about the minimum wage issue. And we also had the voice of business here in Mr. Baltus telling you exactly how it is going to affect his business. And that's what I'd like to represent for you here today. I know a lot of you have been contacted already by small business owners letting you know that this is going to be detrimental to their business in Wood County. Just this morning, I had a comment from a computer company indicating that they'll need to cut employees and deter hiring new employees if this resolution would go through. This is a big deal to me because this is a company that we have invested in. The Heart of Wisconsin Chamber of Commerce has revolving loan funds invested in a company that's poised to grow. But something like this minimum wage issue, could prohibit that from happening. Another local restaurant that I'm sure you're all very familiar with, they use local foods. They believe in paying their employees fairly. They are, by all accounts, really good people in this community. They too are opposed to the raising of the minimum wage. They need to be able to operate their business fairly and so that they can meet the needs and make the payrolls that they have. And then finally, I'll talk to you a little bit about a local grocery store, a locally owned and operated grocery store that has 75% of his workforce being teenagers that are making under minimum wage. Now, I don't know about you guys when you had teenagers, but teenagers are not exactly the most reliable employees in the world. They have sports. They have a lot of different things going on in their lives where their job is not necessarily that priority. So you're dealing with people that you need to bring up their skill level, you need to be flexible in their schedules, and you just like the opportunity to pay them according to what they bring to the table. So this business too would be negatively affected by this minimum wage increase. We want to keep businesses and competition alive and well in Wood County, so I encourage you to please vote down this resolution so we can do just that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Kevin Kane from Citizen Action of Wisconsin. I'm here today in favor of both referendums. I am quite surprised to learn how many jobs will be destroyed by an advisory referendum that allows citizens the chance to vote. That is news to me. I'd say that if you are against the minimum wage, you should try to convince voters to have the chance to that it's not a good idea, as opposed to denying them the chance to decide for themselves. But the reason I'm here today is in favor of the majorly the Badger Care referendum. And I'm here because I am helping to convey what the other counties around the state have been doing and why they have been doing it. It is correct that counties across the state have been putting this question, should the state of Wisconsin accept federal funds for Badger Care, on the county ballot. As of right now, 14 localities have done so, including last night's city of Kenosha just passed it 16-0. And they do have people on both sides of the spectrum on their city council. The reason they're doing this is because there is a coverage gap. There is a situation where individuals who are stuck, unable to access truly affordable health care coverage. And the reason why this matters is because counties often are that social safety net. If people fall through the cracks, they're going to fall to you. They're going to fall to county services, to mental health clinics, to emergency rooms. And that cost gets pushed on to all of us. And we've already heard that $206 million more state funding that has to be spent because of this decision. So basically, the citizens of Wood County are being taxed 3 times. Taxed by the federal government because of federal dollars that should have come back to Wisconsin but won't. Taxed by the state government to spend more money because they decided not to take the money from the feds. And local property tax levies because local Wood County is going to have to help cover the individuals who didn't have access to the Badger Care they should have received. And so these are counties across the state. They don't fit any particular mantra. They're red counties, blue counties, purple counties, rural counties, urban counties. And they've done this from very large margins. In Wisconsin Counties Association, as you know, last September took up the stance that yes, the state of Wisconsin should accept the federal funds. And these counties are passing this by overwhelming margins. St. Croix passed it 14-2. Lincoln County passed it 20-1. Jefferson County passed it 24-4. Chippewa County 12-1. And last night's city of Kenosha, as I mentioned, 16-0. I should mention that for both of these referendum, you are not making a stance. You are not putting yourself on the line. You are saying our citizens should get the chance to weigh in on this important, critical public policy issue. Because when it comes to Badger Care, it truly is nonpartisan. There are people on both sides of the spectrum who've said the state should take the money. Senator Petrowski, for example, yes. And so today, as we've heard, 14 localities have done this, but today there are 9 other counties who are voting. Today, this very moment, Oneida is. This afternoon, Portage is. And Fond du Lac, Washburn, Manitowoc, City of Green Bay, Winnebago, list goes on. I'll yield my time, but thank you so much. I hope you support these referendums.
Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Laura Locken. I work for a church here in town, and I'm also on the Commission for Public Life Policy for the Wisconsin Council of Churches. And I would like to tell you that I strongly support putting both these referendums on the ballot in November as far as raising the minimum wage and also accepting federal dollars for Badger Care, because I think the people deserve to say what they feel. And that's the most important thing, is that the people get a say. I have a couple different personal stories. And for one thing, I'd kind of like to debate, too, the issue of minimum wage first. Many argue that we shouldn't increase the minimum wage because doing so especially hurts the job prospects of young and low-skilled workers, but it's not standing up to scrutiny. The latest evidence comes from 2 University of Delaware economists who have looked at employment trends in 13 states that have raised their minimum wage above the federal minimum since 2011. The bottom line, there is no evidence of negative employment effects due to increases in state minimum wages, the report says. When adjustments are made, young and low-skilled workers actually do slightly better in states that have increased their minimum wage than in those that haven't. So the evidence is clear, but it doesn't, raising the minimum wage puts more money into the pockets of working people, helping to lift them out of poverty and dependence. The more money people make, the more money that is going back into the economy. More people will be able to go to those restaurants and eat. More people will be able to go to those grocery stores instead of going to the cheaper big box stores. They'll be able to go to local businesses. So the businesses would actually make more money, so they could afford to pay their employees more because their employees will be making more money and spending more money. But I'd also like to talk about some personal stories as far as Badger Care goes. Working for a local church, I've heard these personal stories. We had 2 people working at our church that were both part-time employees, and both of them could have died because they did not have insurance. They both ended up in the emergency room. One had an infection that got worse until she was actually had sepsis, and she could have died. And like I said, she was treated in the emergency room when she could have been treated sooner if she had had insurance and just gone to a doctor's office.
30 seconds.
The other person had diabetes, and he ran out of insulin, and he nearly died also. A third adult was kicked off of Badger Care, and she can't afford the premiums or the deductibles of the insurance that she's being offered. So I would strongly encourage you to approve a referendum on both these matters for the November 2014 ballot. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Tom Stensberg. I'm president of the United Steelworkers Local 294. Who those that may not know, we're one of the locals that represent the production workers in the paper mills in that Coranzo here. We're former paper makers that have merged into the steel workers. I'm in favor of putting both of these issues on the ballot in November. I want to speak to you today on raising the minimum wage. I'm in favor of putting the referendum on raising the minimum wage on the November ballot. Every year the minimum wage was not increased. It's actually a pay cut after inflation's accounted for. That is just morally wrong. Anyone working full-time should not have to live in poverty. An increase in minimum wage would help improve the economy. The real job creators in society are the consumer. No one hires anybody to build a product or provide a service if no one is buying it. By increasing the minimum wage, it will put more money in the hands of people who will spend it buying needed goods and services. This in turn will increase demand, which in turn will require more jobs to be created to provide more goods and services. An increase in the minimum wage will also reduce the burden on taxpayers who now have to pay for food stamps, subsidized housing, and other benefits that are needed to survive by these workers when they don't get paid enough to be able to provide for themselves. There's a myth that it's just teenagers working these jobs part-time for some extra spending money. But according to the Economic Policy Institute, the reality is 88% of those in minimum wage jobs are adults 20 years or older. The average age is actually 35. Women make up way over half of these workers and many times have to try to support children on these poverty wages. Polls show most Americans support raising the minimum wage. Let the Wood County residents show how they feel by putting this most important matter on the ballot and included on the November ballot. Thank you.
Thank you.
I know I had my time. I'd like to talk briefly. I think I only used up a minute of it. It's just a short story in regards to a minimum wage.
I'll give you one more minute.
Okay. My first job was a minimum wage job in 1968. I made $1.40 an hour, then it was raised to $1.60 an hour, much to the gnashing of my boss. You know, he thought he was going to go out of business. But what happened, if that $1.60 an hour today, you would need $10.90 an hour to have the same buying power as that $1.60 an hour was in 1968. So workers have been taking a pay cut over the last 30 years, whereas productivity has increased, the gross national product has doubled, but wages remain stable. All that money is flowing down to up to the top with the hopes that it will trickle down. But we know that trickle down, there must be something wrong with the plumbing because it's not making it back down to the working folks. I think that, you know, a bubble up philosophy, 70 to 80% of the economy is through consumption. When people have more money in their pocket, they can spend more. Small businesses in the long run are the ones that benefit. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that's the first time we've ever allowed a do-over, but you're probably right. All right, any other public comment today? Looks like we do have a little more here.
Hello, my name is Brett Hart. I'm from the town of Grand Rapids. 66% of Americans support raising the minimum wage. If the minimum wage in America had kept pace with inflation since 1968, it would be close to $11 today. If it had kept pace with productivity gains since '68, it would be $22 today. Minimum wage today is only $15,000 a year for a full-time employee, which is not a living wage. Australia's minimum wage is over $16 an hour, yet their unemployment rate has been only 4% even during a global recession since 2008. When the poor earn more, they spend that money. That money gets put immediately and directly back into the economy, which stimulates it. That increases demand for products. Thereby, employers will hire people if there's more demand for their products. If a business can't afford to pay its employees a living wage, in my opinion, they should not be in business. Washington State and Washington, D.C. are raising their minimum wages. I'm also in support of the state of Wisconsin accepting the federal Medicaid money. The Journal Sentinel said yesterday that if Governor Walker had accepted this money, more than $500 million over 3.5 years would have been saved to the state. We could have used that money to pay for education, roads, and other services we need. In addition, an estimated 87,000 more adults each month would have been served under Badger Care. So I urge you to place these two referendums on the ballot. Thank you.
Any other additional public comment?
My name is Mark Lockham. I live in this city, have all my life. 55 years old, soon to be 56 years old. I'm on Badger Care. Just in June, I had a back fusion surgery. I don't know what I'd do without it, but now I have a chance to get back out in the workforce and make a living. You know, I don't feel like I should stand here and have to convince you folks This is in your lap right now, and all we're asking for is for you to throw it over our way. Let us have a chance to say something about it. There's enough of this crap where things are getting blocked in Congress, and do something. Just give it to us. Let us vote on it. That's all I'm asking. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? I'll ask one more time. Anybody else? All right, I want to thank everybody for their public comment this morning, and this will then take us back into our packet. Supervisor Clendenning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was wondering if we could move those two items up. If there's no...
I don't think there's probably objection to that, but does somebody have the page numbers? Could have given me a little heads up on that. All right, without objection, we will pull those two resolutions to the front of the packet. They come out of the Judicial and Legislative Committee. It is, like I said, page 105. The first one is in regard to the Badger Care Program. I'll let Cindy get set here. You good? All right, I ask the clerk to please read the resolution.
This is item 5-1, which will be numbered Resolution 14-8-1, to direct the county clerk to place on the November 2014 ballot an advisory referendum question as to whether the state should accept federal Medicaid funds for the Badger Care Program. Fiscal note, the maximum cost of the referendum for publication and printing expenses would be $2,500, depending on the final ballot contents and layout.
You've heard the reading of the resolution. Is there a motion to approve to that effect? Motion by Hamilton, second by Nelson. Discussion on the resolution. Discussion on the resolution. Supervisor Roser.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I intend to vote no for this resolution, and I would like to tell you why. Every election is an opportunity to vote on a referendum. I've kind of been opposed to advisory referendums, and I have my own anecdote about advisory referendums. I was on this county board when somebody pushed an advisory referendum to decrease the county board by half. This person did not even know what day the county board met on. Of course, the referendum passed because it sounded good. 38 people's too many to have on a county board. And so our county board was forced to cut our county board in half. We had to do a reorganization of our county government, and it was not the best decision for this county board to go to 19 members. These issues that are before us take a lot of deliberation and thoughtful discussion. We elect people to participate in that thoughtful, deliberative discussion. When we put advisory referendums on the ballot, things are voted on out of emotion and not as knowledgeably as they could. We have a say in everybody that we send to either Madison on this board and to Washington to make decisions for us. We are a representative government, not a pure democracy. There are 3 reasons. That's the first one that I will vote against this referendum. Money comes with lots of strings attached. We have a federal government that is trillions of dollars in debt. If we don't think that that money will be pooled in years to come to the detriment of the financial situation, we're very short-sighted in taking money up front that eventually is pulled from us and puts our state in a worse situation than whether we accept that money. Marathon County did vote down this resolution, so this is not an across-the-board where people have passed this resolution. And I think that we need to realize that we have an opportunity to speak in November on the leadership that has made this decision, and I will vote against this advisory referendum and allow us to ultimately vote for people that represent our interests. Thank you.
Additional discussion? Additional discussion? Supervisor Minor.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, thank you. And I too will be voting against the two resolutions, and I'll just speak to this one, and my comments will hold true. I guess I'm more of a purist when it comes to local government. There are things that we do well, and there are things that we elect other people to do. We do live in a you kind of took a lot of the words out of my mouth. Thanks, Don. Didn't appreciate that. But we do live in a representative republic. We elect, so the decision on whether they take the Badger Care money or whether the minimum wage goes up, you've made that by the time you even hit the referendum questions. The referendum questions, because they're only advisory, really, and I don't mean to be facetious, but they're not worth the paper they're written on, essentially, just because they are only advisory. The county board one was a little bit different because that was binding. I mean, that was a binding, I believe that was a binding resolution. I see the Corporation Council's nodding his head, so I'm right on one point. So that was binding. And I appreciate the binding resolution. That's fine. But these advisory ones, I just think there are more appropriate ways of sending a message, and then that's in the top part of the ballot and not at the bottom part where we're going to have those advisory referendums. We do have a say in those issues, and it's by, and Donna's right, it's by who we elect to represent us in our representative republic that we do live in. So I will be voting no on both of these, just because they're not binding. They're just advisory. They're not worth it. I mean, nothing's going to happen because of it. They're going to take a look at, yep, and there's the shredder pile right there. So I will be voting no.
Supervisor Wagner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I heard these same talking points yesterday at the legislative briefing over in Mosinee. And what I heard over there at the legislative briefing is the same rhetoric I hear from both sides. And with that, both the rhetoric equates to gridlock. It doesn't seem who we matter, it doesn't matter who we send to Madison, we always get the gridlock. And the reason is this caucus system says you will vote with your caucus this way or you will vote with your caucus that way, and that's it. That's the end of the game. And if one party wants to support the governor's position, they support it. If they've got the majority, they win. That's it. The result is gridlock. And we also heard the argument about money. Oh, the federal government's going to pull the rug out from underneath you in 3 years. Well, there's no evidence either way that they're going to do one or the other. If the people seem to like this Badger Care program, and I don't think that they're going to pull something out that's as good as, that is working as good as it has. The bottom line is, it's really not about money, it's about people. And if you take a look at the article that appeared, it was printed in the Journal Sentinel first, and then it was published in the Wausau Journal the other day. As a matter of fact, an editorial in the Wausau Journal. When they cut Badger Care, it used to be you could be eligible for it at 133% of poverty level, and they cut it back to 100% of poverty level. We lost, there were 63,000 people who were cut off of Badger Care at that point. 63,000 people in the state of Wisconsin who were cut off of Badger Care. The assumption was all of those 63,000 people would then go to the exchanges set up under the Affordable Care Act. But the Affordable Care Act requires deductibles and premiums that Badger Care doesn't. And not all of those 68,000 people could afford that. As a matter of fact, the editorial said that we lost track of, and we have to find 38,000 people who were cut off of Badger Care and did not end up on the exchanges. It's about people. There are 38,000 of our citizens, our friends, our neighbors, our constituents who have lost coverage because we haven't accepted this. It's about people. I'm going to vote for this, and I urge my colleagues to do the same. Thank you.
Supervisor Mahan, then I'll go to Clendenning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Supervisor Wagner's exactly right. It is about people. And I think part of that is giving the people a voice on this issue. I think when you talk about the numbers of people that we risk by speculating that the federal government will renege on their promises, That is almost catastrophic, in my opinion. I don't think that we risk those families and those individuals on speculation. I think the numbers are there from nonpartisan groups, 206 million this biennium, over 500 million in the next 2 bienniums. I think those are strong numbers. I think this is basically as much of a no-brainer as I've seen since I've been on this board, and I urge my colleagues to vote for this resolution. Thank you.
Supervisor Clendenning.
Excuse me. Yes, this came through the committee, the Judicial and Legislative Committee. Just because the people that are out here ask me, ask other members of the committee, ask other county board members to have this brought before their committee, and it wasn't done. These people are not asking you to vote in November for or against it. They're asking you to put it on a referendum to see how your constituency votes. I have a number of people here from the town of Grand Rapids, and I'm going to vote for this, and mixing apples here with oranges on both the resolutions. Thank you.
Supervisor Hendler.
Thank you. I definitely agree with some of my colleagues here that it is definitely about people. And, you know, living in a democracy is just wonderful, but if you have people that are in the power, in control, sometimes things do not turn out to be that the majority of people do want. So I think a referendum in this case is let the people speak about this. I think it's excellent, and I will support this.
Any additional comment, discussion? All right, seeing none, please vote. That resolution passed 11-6. 11-6. That will take us to the second resolution that we have moved forward in the packet. It is on page 107 in the packet, and I'd ask the clerk to please read the resolution.
This will be Resolution 14-8-2 to direct the county clerk to place on the November 2014 ballot an advisory referendum question as to whether the state should increase the minimum wage in Wisconsin from $7.25 per hour to $10.10 per hour. Fiscal note, the maximum cost of the referendum for publication and printing expenses would be $2,500, depending upon the final ballot contents and layout.
Heard the reading of the resolution. Looking for a motion to that effect. Supervisor Hamilton, second by Supervisor Bry. Discussion. Supervisor Winch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I happen to be against this for a number of reasons. Something we need to realize is that 80% of the jobs out there are provided by small businesses. There's no way that they can support a 45% wage increase. The other part of that is that it not only affects the minimum wage, all wages will be affected. What that does is lowers your purchasing power because the cost of goods are going to increase with the increased wages. I think maybe it would make more sense if a couple of things were to be attached to this. If they're going to increase the minimum wage, then employers should be able to recover the losses caused by mistakes of employees. And anybody that's been in business knows what I'm talking about. It costs the employers a lot of money to cover mistakes. Secondly, I think it would make more sense, and if you wanted to increase your purchasing power, for the government to reduce the taxes for minimum wages. In other words, reduce income taxes, state and federal, say by 10%. That would increase their purchasing power, and everybody's in purchasing power. I'm going to vote against this. Thank you.
Additional discussion? Conversation, Supervisor Henkel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I, too, am opposing this resolution. I feel strongly that we have heard from the people who actually have to make that payroll and make the decisions about who they have to cut. They're the ones that know that they don't have that margin. They can't afford this kind of raise. I'm against it.
Supervisor, did you have your hand up, Supervisor Rosa, or not? Supervisor.
Oh, you're very kind to even
Supervisor
recognize
Rosa,
that,
then
Mr.
Supervisor Mahan.
I will be opposing this resolution as well for many of the same reasons that I opposed the last resolution. As long as we have such a low percentage of people that show up to vote in state and national elections, we are not utilizing the avenue that we already have to cast a vote in favor or against certain policy makers that support various things. I do agree, and I appreciate Mr. Winch's comments. The reason that we have working poor is multifaceted. It's not just because we have what people perceive as a low minimum wage. I appreciate the comments from people that need to make payroll. And again, emotions take over with a lot of this without a lot of deliberative, thoughtful discussion about what the ramifications are to support this. I repeat again that we have the opportunity to vote in November for policymakers that either support or do not support our philosophy of how things should be run, and advisory referendums are unnecessary.
Thank you. Supervisor Mahan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Supervisor Rosar is exactly right. Emotions do take over. When you're trying to feed a family on $7.25 an hour, emotions take over. Put yourself in that position for a minute, for 1 minute. And you know what happens when companies suppress their workers by paying low wages? And that's strong language. But when major profitable companies can pay their employees minimum wage and not provide health care benefits and other services that are normally associated with good paying jobs, guess where they come to? They come to us. And that costs taxpayers, and taxpayers need to realize that. That's the part of the story you never hear. It's costing you on the other end, because we're paying for health care benefits, we're paying for child care in places, and probably education costs. So we can't forget about that. There's two sides to that equation. I'll be supporting this resolution.
Supervisor Minor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And all this conversation on both sides of me here, anyway, it sounds like what should be happening in the halls of Congress. It absolutely has nothing to do with the county board, with all due respect, Supervisor Mahan. The resolution you're looking at is not debating whether or not to raise the minimum wage, it's whether to put this on the ballot. And I still contend you've made the decision on whether this is going to end up on somebody's agenda well before you've ever hit the advisory referendums at the bottom of the ballot. The discussion of whether, Supervisor Winch's discussion, back to Supervisor Rosar and Supervisor Mahan, mean nothing. With all due respect, it means nothing. We're not arguing about whether or not the minimum wage should be raised. We're arguing whether to put this on a ballot, and then I contend is, what good does it do to put it on the ballot? Nothing. It does no good. You're much better off to elect people that think more like you, who actually make the decision where these topics should be discussed, than we are by putting on these referendums. So there are good arguments on both sides of the case, of this thing. Doug had great arguments, and so did Winch and Rosar and Mr. Baltus and Mr. Larson and all the people in the audience. But what good does that do on an advisory referendum? It does no good. So I will not be supporting this resolution for that very reason. Not that I don't support the raise in minimum wage. This is the wrong avenue to push that agenda.
Go to Supervisor Clendenning and then Supervisor Nelson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So referendums don't do you any good. I beg to differ with you. We had a referendum last November in the town of Grand Rapids on increasing our police force to full-time. It was beat down 75% to 25%. And the town board didn't do it. These referendums are what your constituent. Most of us people on this county board don't have competition. If we want to change somebody on here, we got to get somebody to run against somebody. That's the way that works. To think that, well, if you want to change things on the county board, get people to think like you. I might do that. Thank you.
Supervisor Nelson.
Thank you. I had intended to vote no on this, but after this discussion, I'm going to vote yes. And what is changing my mind is the statement was made that in the legislature, you go into your caucus and you're intimidated. You got to go with the majority of the caucus. The other point, I sympathize with the small business people. I know what the problem is. But when you look at the big corporations and the bigger companies, you read quite frequently $1 million, $2 million, bonuses, et cetera, and so forth. They have no concern for the people that are working. It's filling their pockets. And so I think it's time to spread out a little bit of this money, and $7.50 an hour is pretty tough to live on, especially with a family. It's, I think what we're really doing is we're sending a message that, you know, the people have a say, and let's hear what it is. And voting for a person, you don't know which way they're going to go. It's just rhetoric. I'm for this, I'm for that, and then when I'm elected, I can go any way I want. So I encourage a yes vote. Thank you.
I'm looking around, I see Supervisor Wagner's hand up.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman. I want to address the issue of whether or not an advisory referendum has any effect at all. We have, you know, there's a great deal of difference between what Supervisor Minor is talking about, which is the act of governing. That's what we do here. We govern, and you're absolutely right. We can't change the minimum wage, and nor should we. We try to. But there is the other act of that. There is the other aspect, and that is politics. And that other aspect is if we allow this to be on a referendum, the candidates who are running for public office in November at the same time this is running, and these are the guys that are running for state office. These will be our assemblymen and our senators. A few of the state offices also, statewide offices also on there. Basically, they're going to be asked where they stand on this issue. And if they know, if they can see that the people of the community are, the people of their district are strongly in favor of one way or another, they might think twice before they oppose well, I'm assuming that this thing would pass. I don't know, it may die. But they would know, and they would think twice on their vote. So there is a way to affect those who we send. You know, we've gotten this, twice today we've gotten this lecture on representative democracy. Representative democracy also means that those who are elected to state office should be accountable to the people who put them there. And this is the only way they can get a good grip on where the people who put them there stand on a particular issue is if on these advisory referendums. Now, I think Trent's chafing at the bit to get on it again here, I think. But I believe that I believe that they do some good. I believe that the people deserve to say to stand up and say what they want about this, or where they stand on it, and I'm going to vote for it.
Supervisor Minor.
Supervisor Wagner, you suffixed my comments. What was that comment before? You said something about me being...
Right.
Thank you.
Oh.
I just wanted that repeated. Thank you.
That's smart. Thank you.
I wanted this on tape just because my wife will probably watch this later.
That was it?
That was it, Mr.
Okay.
I love it. Yeah, advisory referendum, there it is. Now suddenly I'm in favor of it.
Supervisor Hendler.
Thank you. You know, this is perhaps in my short tenure on the county board, we've had a very good conversation about forms of democracies and how they are formed and how they are influenced. But getting back to this particular issue, you know, I'm more apt to support the economy issues of the private citizen opposed to the businesses. I think a business has a lot more flexibility than an individual citizen has, so I'll be supporting this particular move. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Any other discussion? All right, I don't see any, so please vote. That resolution passed 9-8. 9-8. All right, that takes us back into the packet. I want to thank the board for letting us take that out of order. We go back into the packet. We have no special orders of business today. This will take us to page 7, basically, in the packet, which is the Tuesday meeting of the Executive Committee, Tuesday, August 5th. Everybody there? Okay. Page 7, 8, and 9. 10 was the bituminous overlay, seal coat, and bridges that we talked about last time. Page 11, the maintenance monthly letter of comments. Page 12, the finance monthly letter of comments. Page 13, comments from the systems department, as well as 14. Page 15, safety and risk management. Page 16, Health and Human Services Committee, as well as 17 and 18. The Health and Human Services Committee of June 30th on 19 and 20. Community Care of Central Wisconsin, their minutes of Wednesday, June 25th on pages 21 through 25. 21 through 25. Page 26, minutes of the Veterans Service Commission of June 10th, as well as 27 and 28. On page 29, we have the Health Department July 28th report. To look over that, and that goes pages 29 to 32, again, 29 through 32. Supervisor Winch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If we go to page 20, I see where we sent an employee out to Washington, D.C. for a breastfeeding coalition. And then again on page 32, we went to Arlington, Virginia. Personally, I think that's the total waste of taxpayers' money, whether it's grant funds or otherwise. All babies are born with the instinct to breastfeed. Why are we wasting all this money running around doing what we're doing? Thank you.
Okay. It goes through page 32. Any other comments on the Health and Human Services report there? All right, page 33, the Veteran Service Officers report of July 28th. That's 33. Page 34, the minutes from Edgewater Haven, or their comments from Edgewater Haven, not minutes. Supervisor Hamilton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Now, is the open house this Thursday? I see it's been moved to September.
That is true. Edgewater Haven was not completed with the project to
Yeah,
have
they
an
had some
open
back.
house today, so we'll have it after county board in
After
September.
county board on the 23rd. Thank you very much.
Thank you for pointing that out, too. Page 35 in your packet, Kathy Redder's report, the Director's report from Human Services, that's 35, 36, 37, and 38. Page 39, minutes of the Wood County Public Safety Committee of July 14th, as well as 40, 41, and 42. The Humane Officers Report, May 27th through June 22nd on 43. The Coroner's Report on page 44. We have various jail population figures and other graphs and numbers on pages 45 through 50. Anybody have any questions on those? 45 through 50. Okay, if not, that takes us to page 51 in your packet, and that is a resolution from the Public Safety Committee.
This will be Resolution 14-8-3 to return a small parcel of donated real estate to the successor in interest of the grantor so as to have it placed back on the tax roll. Fiscal note, minimal. The .34 acre parcel is landlocked and therefore has no nominal value except when reattached to the adjacent parcel it was originally removed from.
I have a motion by Supervisor Fire, a second by Supervisor Clendenning. Is there any discussion on this resolution? Any discussion? Supervisor Curry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would assume that that the shooting range doesn't need this property anymore, or is that?
We're in the process of shutting down that range, and we're
Okay.
gonna move it, so, and it's landlocked, so we have to give it to somebody, and so it's to give it to these people.
Thank you.
The reason for, Supervisor Clendenin, go ahead, it'd be better.
Thank you. I'm Airport Commissioner for Alexander Field, and the Bureau of Aeronautics is the ones that are asking for this, and I gotta say, the county is working very cooperatively with me. They have to go over actually a runway to get to it, on the airport property. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion on the resolution? Any other discussion? Okay, please vote. That resolution passed unanimously. Page 32 is just a copy of that deed. Page 53, Conservation Education Committee meeting of Tuesday, July 15th. Same committee, their meeting of Wednesday, August 6th on 54, 55, 6, 7, 8, and 9. North Central ITBAC Board of Thursday, May 29th on 60, 61, 62, 63. Same committee, their meeting of Thursday, May 29th on 64, 65, and 66. UW Extensions minutes, July of 2014, I'm sorry, it's the comments from the UW Extension office on pages 67 through 79. 67 through 79. Those are the various reports from the different departments within that University Extension office. Any question on any of those? Brings me to the planning and zoning comments, starting on page 80, going through 83, so 80, 81, 82, and 83. Any questions from planning and zoning? Page 84, comments from land conservation, beginning with Jerry Storks on 84, 85. Page 86, Supervisor Henkel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to point out that the Wood County Conservation Education and Economic Development Committee tour is going to be September 11th, and anyone is welcome to join us. We are starting at 8 o'clock. You'll be getting more information about it, but we will be going from 8 to noon on the 11th of September. We tour projects related to all of our departments, and that will include a dairy that has been improving as far as runoff. There's a non-metallic mining site, and what was the other site? Oh, where we had changed from holding tanks to another system in a very tight site. But it's a very interesting tour, and I encourage people to join us. You need to contact the Land Conservation Department by the 9th of September. Thank you.
Thank you, Hildy. Page 86 is minutes of the Judicial and Legislative Committee of July 15th, as well as a sign-in sheet on 87. Page 88, Judicial and Legislative Committee of July 16th, as well as page 89 and 90. Pages 91 through 95 look like they're sign-in sheets for those meetings. Page 96, their minutes from July 28th. Page 97, a sign-in sheet from that meeting. Page 98, the August 13th meeting of the Judicial and Legislative Committee. That all, Bill? Most of the packet there. Okay. Then we have the Joint Legislative Committee minutes from Monday, June 16th on page 99, 100, 101. The Child Support Monthly Letter of Comments on 102. A report from Corp Counsel on 103 and 4. Page 105, we already did. As well as 106. We already took care of the resolution on page 107. And that brings us to page 108 in your packet, and this is another resolution from the Judicial and Legislative Committee.
This will be Resolution 14-8-4 to allow for multiple compensated meetings on County Board Day. Fiscal note, unknown, but likely not a significant monetary impact to the county.
Okay, you've heard the reading of the resolution. I have a motion by Henkel, a second by Hamilton. Any discussion on the resolution? Supervisor Roser?
I'm sorry. That one whereas says it would be appropriate to schedule meetings, no, that's not where I'm looking, the next one. Whereas there are frequently short committee meetings on a monthly county board. Any idea of putting a time frame to that? Would it be more appropriate to put a time frame less than 30 minutes or something rather than short? That word short might be open to interpretation.
Supervisor Clendenning?
And it was open to conversation at the meeting. And we thought this would be a good time for somebody to really get interested and amend this resolution to what they think it would be. Or we could have a referendum on it.
I don't want to get in trouble, and this is not, I don't want to speak directly to the resolution. I think part of the trouble we got in the first time around is we did assign times to things. And I think that was the thought process, and then we'll continue the discussion in any way you want. So additional discussion on the resolution. Additional discussion on the resolution. Supervisor Clendenning?
Yes. Now, my understanding is there's the meeting immediately after this board meeting, and it's going to be at the courthouse, and they're not going to get paid for it, correct? And this. So I disagree that this is increasing the pay of an elected official during their term of office. I think, and I didn't get my lawyer out of Cracker Jack box or anything, but anyways, this is an opinion of Corporation Counsel. I think it's a time we're changing. I don't think we're changing somebody's compensation. And I'd like to know, I'd like to propose an amendment to it that if in the best interest of the county we save money, if in the best interest of having this meeting this afternoon, if the county board chair thinks we could save some money by having it instead of at 1 o'clock, we could have it at 12 o'clock and save money so people wouldn't have to go back to Marshfield and pay for per diem and mileage. I just would like to, at the discretion of the county board chair, until it becomes binding in 2016.
That's it? No. I guess my question is, were you offering that as an amendment? Then, Peter, what's the legality of that?
Thanks. And with all due respect to my committee chair, and we've discussed this, and I appreciate him having discussed this with me in advance. It's my opinion that you're changing your compensation package by modifying this, and that's why I put in the resolution that it would be effective, I think it's April 16, a year and a half down the road, as opposed to upon passage today. Now, having said that, this board can approve a motion to modify this to make it effective today, and you can then submit your vouchers the way you feel is appropriate, and the chances of anyone bringing an action against you or the county with respect to this are very, very low. And we're not talking about a lot of dollars here, and
And so some people might say, well, the right thing to do, equity, things of that nature, let's go ahead and do it. We're going to go 56 and a 55, and we don't think the cops are going to stop us. So it's up to you what you want to do with this. I don't think it's a big legal issue, but I think I've given my committee and my oversight committee chair my opinion that it does change your compensation, and technically, I think it does, and that's why it should be effective in 2000 and whatever it is, 16. Thank you.
I'm going to go, let me straighten this out. Before I get there, Bill, I don't think it was in any way worded clearly that you wanted to offer an amendment to that. Do you want to continue discussion on this resolution as it sits here, or do you want to try to offer an amendment at this
I
time?
want to offer amendment. I want to make the effective date today and put us all in jail.
Okay. So I have a motion by Clendenning, and I have a second by Rosar to make the effective date of this resolution today. Is there discussion on that amendment? I had a motion by Clendenning and a second by Rosar.
Okay, but what you were talking about as an amendment had to do with having the county board chair.
I didn't get a second to that. Who seconded?
Okay, but you were,
No.
no, but when you were talking about amending it, you were talking about the county board chair saying that if it was in the best interest of the county and saving money, having him at the discretion approve that.
Yeah, that was,
That you had said amendment at that time.
he did. I think that failed for a second.
Okay.
Just to clarify, and I think
I'll
the
take
amendment.
that.
And let me just clarify, that was part of discussion, and that's what I was asking about. So your amendment strictly deals with the date, the effective date of the resolution,
As written.
as written.
All right.
And Supervisor Rosar second that.
Right, and I'd also like to speak to it if I could.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Discussion in regard to the amendment. I'll start with Supervisor Rosar. I'll go to Supervisor Curry.
My only concern about that amendment, Supervisor Clenning, is it does state in here that the meeting has to be, that can't be before 1 o'clock. And I think if I'm reading that right, so if you're having a 12 o'clock meeting today after county board, that would not make this effective date applicable because the time is still in the resolution to.
No, it's,
Okay, let me read it. After the conclusion, but before, okay, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Okay. Supervisor Curry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't want to say this was, part of this was brought up because of the ad hoc committee, I think. It isn't about Supervisor Rosar, who was the chairman, or myself, but I was chided by or corrected by the clerk's office when I put in for a meeting, because we had a meeting after the county board, and when we had a public hearing, and went into 5, 6 o'clock at night. But the clerk, after I was disciplined by the clerk's office, I found out that to discuss not the original motion, or the original, but to change this now, I think, puts a bad light on all of us. We should be held to the highest standard that, of everybody. And we've already held up raises for elected officials before, that they can't receive them while they're in office. And our esteemed counsel here, the Corporation Counsel, gave us, he's over there someplace, gave us an opinion that it isn't wrong, but it isn't right either. So I wouldn't support changing this. Let's wait, and I'll support the original motion, but not the second one.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm going to go to Supervisor Hamilton, then Supervisor Wagner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I see it as not as a wage raise. I see it as a savings to the county, because if you can get 3, 4 meetings in at once, where we're not paying, again, like Supervisor Clendenning said, you don't have to pay mileage, you don't have, yada, yada, on and down the line. And I don't see it as something that's going to be abused. I think it's just a convenience thing. We're here anyways, we're going from here over to the county. I don't think anybody's going to take a mile from here to the county board for this next meeting. It seems to me to make more sense to have this on the books. And again, if we have a problem, we can deal with it. But I don't see a problem in this.
Supervisor Wagner, then I'll go to Supervisor.
Thank you, sir. Supervisor Hamilton, I agree that it will save the county money in mileages. That's the one. If you can hold those meetings on the same day of county board, you're saving the mileages. That's probably an insignificant amount in the grand scheme of things. Having said that, however, our job, and I think the statutes even say this in the ethics, is we are supposed to not just avoid impropriety, but the appearance of impropriety. And I think the fact that the learned counsel has told us, well, this is your compensation package, and you really shouldn't do this, but nobody's going to throw you in jail. I think that is the best appearance of impropriety we could possibly do, is to vote on something after we've been advised that it's probably not a legal matter. So I'm going to have to vote against it only on that matter. Thank you.
Supervisor Ashbeck.
To me, all the saving is for gas mileage for, they're not for attending a meeting the same day, but we got 4 people coming from Marshfield. Are the other 3 gentlemen going to wait for Ed Wagner to have his meeting at 1 o'clock? Are they going to sit in the courthouse, the other 3 gentlemen, or are they going to drive home?
I need those comments on the microphone so everybody can hear that. Supervisor Ashby, you were continue, or that was your extent of the comment? You're done?
Right.
Okay.
So I'll be voting no on it, that's fine.
Additional discussion on the amendment. Additional discussion on the amendment. Let's go to the board. I think this might be close. All right, give her 1 second to get that ready. You ready? Okay, and Supervisor Pollack, you have a question prior?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, could you repeat the motion there, the way that it's, what we're voting on here?
The amendment
Seems
states
like
that
it's
this would
changed.
become effective immediately, is generally the gist of that, upon passage.
Thank you.
Okay? All right, no other discussion? Please vote. It failed 11-6. Now that takes us back to the original resolution as drafted and presented. Any discussion on the resolution? Supervisor Roser.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the Judicial and Legislative Committee bringing this forward. I think Supervisor Curry is absolutely correct. We felt like spending the whole day at the courthouse during those ad hoc meetings was, excessive, and we were trying to save mileage. But I agree with our esteemed corporate counsel that it will increase compensation, because now we'll be able to put in for meetings that we were not able to put in for. I do notice that the resolution says that this was an oversight, that the rule was not thought about when, before we all got elected, but I am all for living above impropriety, and so that's why I seconded the motion, because the discussion was good for the amendment but voted against it. But I appreciate this being brought forth, and I think that the Board of Supervisors that are going to be elected in the future will appreciate the fact that they have the opportunity. And, we do this all for the pay, don't we all sit on this board because of the large amounts of money that we make? And so we do have public servants' hearts, but it is a lot of work to sit on this board, and I think that the people that vote for us don't even realize how hard we work.
Supervisor Clendenning.
I just want to talk so it gets after 1 o'clock and you all get paid for that meeting.
I gotta go to work, Bill.
But one of the things is that I just think this was an interpretation of the clerk's office saying the 1 o'clock. I don't believe 1 o'clock is in the resolution that was passed. I think it was immediately following a county board meeting. You would not. I think the time span was there. I
believe the resolution says 1 o'clock because, if I may, when the rule was changed quite a few years ago, if you read that resolution from, 2008 or whatever, the amendments to that resolution are pages long. I'm not kidding you. That was the meeting from, yes. And the intent of changing that from 1 o'clock to 1 o'clock, meetings held after 1 o'clock at that time, was to enable, because it was no, you didn't get paid for a second meeting on County Board Day. And it was changed to include meetings after 1 o'clock so that somebody going to, say, the Fair Board meeting at 7 o'clock that night would get paid for it. That was the intent of what it was changed for at that time. That's why it's stated 1 o'clock.
Okay.
We do have a resolution before this body. Is there any further discussion on the resolution? Any further discussion on the resolution? All right, please vote. Ken, you're not confirmed yet.
Supervisor Curry.
There we go. That resolution passed 15-2. Okay, page 107 was done. This takes us to page 109 in your packet. And I would ask the clerk, it's brought forward by the Judicial and Legislative Committee, and I'd ask the clerk to please read that resolution.
This will be Resolution 14-8-5, opposition to proposed reduction in state funding to the circuit court system. Fiscal note, no cost to Wood County.
Okay, I have a motion by Clendenning, a second by Henkel. Any discussion on this resolution? Supervisor Minor.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, thank you. At the last WCA County Organization and Personnel Committee meeting, that steering committee in Madison, my understanding is that it will not come out of the county circuit courts, that this is kind of a done deal, but I certainly support this resolution. But it sounds like it's not, the Chief Justice has said, no, we're not taking out of the circuit court. We'll find other areas to do it.
Yes, thank you. And that was
before
reported
the
on-
next biennium. you
That
know.
was reported on yesterday.
Okay.
Any, Supervisor Roser?
So in light of that, could I make a motion that this resolution just be sent back to the committee? And, I mean, what good does it do for us to vote yes on this if it's a done deal?
I think it's an affirmation of.
Oh, of their
continued
decision,
support.
okay. No,
Okay.
withdraw that.
All right. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Please vote. That resolution passed unanimously. Takes me to page 110 in your packet, and that is another resolution from the Judicial and Legislative Committee in regard to the ad hoc study committee.
This will be Resolution 14-8-6, to form an ad hoc study committee of 6 county board supervisors to look into the appropriateness of regulating waste irrigation in Wood County. Fiscal note, no direct cost to Wood County other than per diems and mileage.
You've heard the reading of the resolution. Looking for a motion by Wagner, a second by Bry. Discussion on this resolution. Any discussion on this resolution? Supervisor Winch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The one thing I liked in this regulation, it appears that we're going to be talking about all waste. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And that would include municipal and whatever. The other part of it, though, is that I think it's a waste of time in that my experience on the Board of Adjustments, as an example, we went through the meeting, we approved something, and we were overruled by the EPA, or not the EPA, by the DNR. I'm afraid that this same situation will happen here. You can spend time and money doing whatever you do, and you have no authority to do anything. I mean, it just seems to me to be a waste of money and time, in that you're going to be overruled by somebody, so you have no authority. Thank you.
Supervisor Clendenning, then Supervisor Wagner.
Thank you.
Alphabetical order.
You know, you're just speculating that you have no control over it. You speculate that. I know, for instance, that when you spray not spray, but just spread human waste, you can't raise corn on that field for a number of years and things like that. And that started out a very local resolution at a county that I was present. So this is the committee to study those things. And I think it's a good committee. I think it gets all the players together in this, and they can come up with what they want.
Now Supervisor Wagner.
I think the breakthrough that we had on this was the realization that the issue isn't just simply the effluent permits, but there are health issues, there are environmental issues, and there's a legal issue. And then one of them is exactly what Supervisor Winch very wisely said. The DNR claims authority over certain parts of manure spreading and the effluent permits themselves. The realization here is that it's more than one issue. It's more than DNR. And basically the reason we've asked the other committees to join us in this effort is so that we can distill those issues down to what we can and what we cannot do, and make recommendations to this county board of what we can present as resolutions and what we might not. That's basically what we want to do. It's not, I personally am not going into this with a preconceived notion of what will happen with it, but I will let the data and the testimony of expert witnesses dictate where I will vote and where I will go on this thing.
Thank you. Supervisor Roser.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will support this resolution, and I think it goes back to a comment that I made when we were discussing the other resolutions. This is a huge issue, and without thoughtful, deliberative discussion, wrong decisions are going to be made, and perhaps a resolution would be brought before this committee that would be passed without that thoughtful and deliberative resolution. So discussion. So I see this committee of bringing all those pieces that Supervisor Wagner talked about, and just the opportunity to actually look at the multifaceted issue in a thoughtful, deliberative way.
Any other? Supervisor Minor?
If I may, Mr. Chairman, thank you. No, and maybe I'm totally wrong, but the University of Wisconsin is also studying this very issue. I mean, is that discussion and their recommendations going to be a part of this final report, or are they? Yes. Okay, thank you.
All right. I had Supervisor Clendenning second time around.
I
I just want to make sure everybody got in the first
I just
time.
want to throw it against the wall, see if it'll stick, I guess. But anyways, yes, I agree. A person from the health department, she's out here now, attended our meeting. And it was just the conclusion that this is what we needed. And I heard so many responses from when the health committee met up in Marshfield, that it was a very positive approach to the manure, the waste, and everything. And so the committee got together and after these different meetings and decided this is the best thing. We should include other people. And I appreciate, the health department for putting on that. Thank you.
Any other discussion on this resolution? Any other discussion? Please vote. That resolution passed 16-1. Just a comment there, too. I really do want to thank those committee chairs for, taking the time to do this the right way. It took a fair amount of discussion, I think, to bring this all to the table, but I think in the long run, we probably come out with a much better product, and I thank you. Page 111 in your packet, minutes of the Highway Infrastructure Recreation Committee, known as HERC, 111, 112, 113, 14, 15, and 16. Their minutes from August 12th on 117, 118. And that brings us to the resolution on page 119, which is a resolution from the HERC Committee.
This will be Resolution 14-8-7, to give the Park and Forestry Director and/or Forest Administrator and the Highway Infrastructure and Recreation Committee authorization to apply for reimbursement for fish and game and wildlife habitat projects through the County Conservation Fund. Fiscal note, this is a 50-50 matching fund grant for projects totaling approximately $5,000 per year.
I have a motion by Minor to that effect, a second by Clendenning. Any discussion on this resolution? Supervisor Curry?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a yearly grant. It isn't perpetual, it's year by year. Okay, so we could be committing $5,000. Thank you.
Supervisor Minor.
Actually, we're not committing anything. We do that. We have to apply for the funding, but it's actually the Muskie, what's the club? There's a club that's going to do the county's half of it.
It's a payment in kind situation here. All right. Any other discussion on this resolution? Supervisor Roser?
So the fiscal note is not that the county is going to have to give $5,000 a year. Did I just understand that you're saying this Muskie Club is going to donate the $5,000?
The DNR will donate half, and then the county, we're the fiscal agent. It's just a pass-through. It's just a
Okay,
pass-through. We have to be the ones that apply, but then the Muskie, Consolidated Muskie Club will
Okay,
reimburse
so that
25.
fiscal note is a little bit misunderstanding by,
No, it's 5,000.
it's 5,000, but
Yeah,
it's
but
not
there-
taxpayer 5,000.
Nor
It's
does
the
it say
Muskie
that.
people.
Correct. Nor does it say that it's levy.
And just from a historical perspective, this is something we've done before. This just eliminates a step in the process. Okay? All right, any further discussion? Any further discussion? Please vote. That resolution passed unanimously. Our clerk is going nuts here writing all this stuff down today. I'm going to let her catch up for a second. We're going to page 120 in the packet.
I know I ran out of pen already.
This is going to be another resolution from the Highway Infrastructure Recreation Committee.
This will be Resolution 14-8-8, to release the Department of Military Affairs of all obligations and terminate lease of Wood County land for the use of military communications tower, and to re-enroll said Wood County lands in the county forest program. Fiscal note, no cost to Wood County.
I have a motion by Hamilton, a second by, I'm going to go with Bry over here. I had a tie. All right. Any discussion on this resolution? Any discussion? Okay. If not, please vote. That also passed unanimously, 17-0. She's running out of ink. You guys are probably running out of pixels. This is about the most
Two pens went
resolutions
dry.
we've had before this board in a long, long time. Page 121 in your packet, another resolution from the Highway Infrastructure Recreation Committee.
This will be Resolution 14-8-9, to approve the withdrawal of .98 acres of Wood County forest lands from the county forest program and approve sale of these lands to the State of Wisconsin Department of Transportation for the purpose of state highway right-of-way. Fiscal note, no cost to Wood County. However, there will be unanticipated revenues in the amount of $1,650.
Motion by Roser, second by Clendenning. Any discussion on this resolution? Any discussion? Please vote. That resolution also passed unanimously. Page 122 in your packet is minutes of the Aging Disability Resource Center of June 12th, as well as 123, 124, and 125. Page 126, their Finance Committee of June 12th. Any questions on any of those? Page 127, the Central Wisconsin State Fair Board minutes of June 16th, as well as 128, 129. Supervisor Wagner.
Fair's coming up, folks. We're going to encourage you to go. And we have a new fair manager, and he told me the other day that one of his goals is to make sure that this is an entire Wood County fair and not just a North Wood County fair. So we encourage you all to come out and enjoy the fair this year. I understand the food is absolutely great, so enjoy it.
Thank you. All right, 130, minutes of the McMillan Memorial Library Board of Trustees. That's 130 and 131. Page 132, South Central Library System, minutes from June 26th, as well as 133 and 134. The Wood County Library Board minutes of April 30th and 135 and 136. The Space Needs Implementation Committee meeting of June 26th and 137 and 138. That takes me to the end of the packet. And I'm sure there's some comments. First thing I'm going to say is September 23rd is the next county board meeting due to the WCA conference. So make note of that. Don't show up on the other date. All right, it's the 23rd. Supervisor Clendenning.
The Judicial Legislative Committee on September 4th at 1 p.m. will hold what I kind of call an annual thing on the resolutions that are going to be before the Counties Association. So we'll be discussing them and inviting legislators.
Anything else that
That's September 4th at 1 PM, that's a Thursday. I got the day off.
I have the clerk.
For those of you that have signed up for the WCA conference, I know a couple of our newer supervisors have signed up and don't really know the routine. Don't worry, you will get more materials as the time gets closer, some more information about it. So you are all registered, those that signed up, so you'll get more closer.
Anything else that needs to come before the board today? Anything else? I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Let's go with Mahan and a second by Hamilton. All in favor, signify by aye. Opposed? We stand adjourned. Thank you very much.